He's not showing up on here. Oh, Wade's got his kitty cat. Don't make me pick up Georgie, Wade.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. How is everyone?
Fine.
Are we all here?
Well,
Going well. Yeah.
Okay. Are all council members accounted for? There's Izzy. Okay. Okay, we're good. First, I want to start by saying to all department heads that will be testifying today, please unmute to speak. Please unmute to speak and then mute yourself again, so we don't get any feedback or hear any background noise. Everybody okay with that? Okay, we're going to start today's work session agenda, and this is for legislative session 2020, day 10.
Chairwoman, is Tom Quirk?
Oh, you know what?
I don't see him.
You are correct. Hey, what's that on your face, Todd?
I'm summoning my inner lumberjack.
Mascara.
I don't know if we're starting without Tom or not. Can we call him to see if he's trying to get on? You can hear me? Are you calling Councilman Quirk? Well, hi, Amy. We see you. Okay. Amy, you can cut off your video till it's time for you to testify.
I'm not sure how. Let's see.
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Okay. Mute yourself till you're ready to testify. There we go. Has anyone heard from Councilman Quirk, or are we starting without him?
I believe the council secretary is on the line with them now.
Okay, let's just give it one more minute.
Is Councilman Jones there?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay. Just don't see you. Oh, now I
There
see
you
you.
are.
Now I see you.
Hi, Julian. We're just going to wait another, for those that are our listeners, we're just waiting for Councilman Quirk to see if he's with us.
I'm here now.
Oh, Councilman Quirk, welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, you're going to show yourself? Okay. Okay, so we're going to start with our first item, which is on page 6, Bill 1520. And I believe we have Colonel David Foldenhotter here for the police department. Are you here, Colonel? Colonel, are you with us? Is Miss Rogers with us? Miss Rogers, are you with us? Is anybody from the administration with us to say whether or not Colonel is testifying? Or should we come back to this item?
Woman Bevan, it's Ed Blades. I'll see what I can do to track him down.
Okay, so we'll move on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Woman, I am here. I was having difficulties as well. My is malfunctioning today.
Okay, we're just waiting for the Colonel for Bill 1520 and a contract. And he doesn't appear to be here yet. So we're going to move on to the next item.
Okay. Yeah, I could hear you, but I couldn't respond. I was like waving.
Okay, well, thanks for the wave. Okay, so for now, we'll come back to that. We're going to go to the second item on page 14, and that's Bill 1720. And I believe we have Chief on with us. Are you with us?
Madam Chair, I will text her as well.
Okay, because I don't,
See people, I mean, I could see their names, but I don't know if they're having difficulty.
right. Okay, so we're going to come back to 1 and 2. Okay, we're just going to keep moving until we get these folks plugged in, because we know we have pretty substantial agenda and we have people listening. So we'll go to the third item, the first third item, and that is Bill, that's on page 19. And that is Bill 19-20. And we have Lawrence Richardson from the Department of Health and Human Services.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Council Chair Bevins and members of the council. This is a,
Do you have your video on? Can you put your
One
video on,
second.
please?
I don't know why we can't see him.
You get, oh, nope. Okay, go ahead, you can proceed.
this is a supplemental appropriation in amount of $1.5 million, which is needed for salary and contractual services being higher than they were budgeted. The department absorbed the cost of 14 positions that were not budgeted to existing vacancies with lower than anticipated turnover during the fiscal year had caused some budget shortfalls. The supplemental appropriation will cover salary expenses in various programs, translation services, overtime costs, and also some overtime costs related to the COVID-19 response efforts.
Thank you, Lawrence. Do any of the members have any questions or comments on Bill 19-20? Okay, thank you so much. Do you mind going down to your contract? I believe it's on page 25.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Go ahead.
This is a contract for evaluation services from 3 separate vendors. The evaluation is to assess multiple grant programs that Health and Human Services currently have, from federal programs from CDC, Maryland Department of Health, and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. The evaluation will be awarded to 3 contractors: 11th Health Solutions, University of Maryland, Baltimore, and the Pacific Institute for Research and Evaluation. These funds will be encumbered each fiscal year by the Health and Human Services, not to exceed the county council approved appropriation. The actual evaluation plan will utilize program attendance data, information on positions, survey findings to determine the impact and impact of each program to help us meet the grant conditions. And these evaluations will be paid for by the actual federal agencies that are providing the grant programs to us.
Thank you, Lawrence. Do any of the members have any questions or comments?
I do.
Councilman Marks?
Thank you. Have these contracts already commenced? Did I read that?
Yes, we did start. We have not expended any funds, but the contracts did start in December.
Okay. Why is that? Why didn't we see this earlier?
I believe these programs initially started and we had to start the contracting in order to provide some evaluation. They will be renewed on 1 year in 1 year period. So you'll see them each 1 year period for the option to renew. We did not exceed the $25,000 limit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members? Thank you, Lawrence. Stay safe. Thanks. Okay, next, do we know if we have the colonel? I don't see him yet, so we're just going to keep moving on then.
We do, Mrs. Bevins. He's on. I think he is on, Mrs. Bevins.
He is. Okay, let's go back to, where is one? Where's one? Oh, we'll go back to 1A, and that's on page 6, and that's Bill 15-20. Colonel, are you with us? Colonel?
He should be there. He's on the bar.
Yes.
Muted or unmuted or.
Okay, Colonel, do you have your mic on and your video on? Okay, I suggest maybe you get somebody to help you with that, and we're going to come back to you. Because we know that you're there. Okay, we're going to go down to item 4 on page 4, and that's Bill 14-20. And we have the Director of Board of Elections, Katie Brown. Hi, Katie, welcome.
I know she's supposed to be on.
She was here earlier, so I know she's here. She's just got to get back on. Katie Brown, are you with us?
You need to turn on your microphone.
Move the mouse just above the pictures on the bottom, and you'll see a row of icons, and then click the one with the microphone to the left.
I don't have that.
Well, you're good.
We can hear you. We can hear you
Hear me
now. We
now?
just need, I can hear you now. Now we just need to see you. I could see you before.
I can see her.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Here,
Okay.
I'm here.
here.
Okay. Alrighty.
Okay.
Welcome, Miss Brown.
How's everybody?
We're good. We're good. Thanks for being with us today.
Sure, sure. So 1420 is a supplemental it put in for $325,000 because of the February 4th, 2020 7th Congressional District election that we had to put on due to Elijah Cummings passing. So we had to have a special election. We need to put that money back in the budget.
Thank you. Do any of the members have any questions or comments?
Yes,
Councilman
Madam
Jones?
Chair.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes. Councilman Jones.
I was curious about if Ms. Brown, first of all, Ms. Brown, I want to thank you for your work, yours and your staff, under these very difficult times. I know things are changing, and you were very helpful to me when I had a few questions earlier in the week, so I appreciate that. My question is, where is the location of the in-person voting in Baltimore County? I guess heard that this morning that there was going to be, for the special election, there was going to be a in-person location in each jurisdiction covered by the 7th Congressional District.
Correct. And I'm working with Ms. Rogers, and we're trying to get the Martins West facility and have it there.
And Councilmember Jones, I can add some insight on this piece as well. We need to be able to do social distancing, and that was the biggest concern about going back to the community center, which was the first recommendation, the Randallstown Community Center. Two challenges with that approach is the amount of potential people who could come out. This is supposed to be for individuals who either have accessibility issues or didn't get their ballot or something happened. But just looking at the number of people that could potentially come out, if we just had a small percentage, there are over 138,000 voters. And we looked at it just back of the envelope and said if 4% of those people came, that's over 6,000 people. So that's why we're looking at the space. I'm working with our county attorney and the Martin group, because there are funds in the COVID response recovery fund that we can apply for at the federal level. There is $400 million nationwide that can be used to support elections. And this was one of the uses of the funds when we researched that. So we're working with Katie to make that happen. The emergency preparedness folks from Dr. Branch's operation, the same people who did the logistics assessment for me for the fingerprinting activity with Rex and Parks that we will get back to at some point, are doing that logistical layout for us to be able to keep the social distancing and get people safely in and safely out, and to keep the staff safe. We've been working on this for about 3 weeks in anticipation of what the final verdict would be.
Well, I can't help but wonder about the who made this decision, because I got to be honest with you, it doesn't appear to be a good decision, because the more and more I think about it, number one, we're sending a couple of messages, and whenever you're trying to communicate with a large amount of people, somebody's going to get it wrong. I don't care how well you try to convey it, someone's going to get it wrong. So now we have a couple of messages. And then when I think about the last special election, I couldn't help but think of all the people who showed up to vote and did not have a ballot, didn't receive a ballot, because in reality, they didn't belong, that they didn't live in the 7th district, but they didn't know any better. They showed up to vote. And, you know, we had to tell them that you're not in the district. So I'm just wondering, I can't, you know, I guess I'll just wait to see what happens.
Well, we're doing the best we can. I mean, this has been a challenge for us because for over 3 weeks, we have been waiting for the state board to make a decision. We were told then the governor was going to make this decision. When the governor's amended proclamation came out, it kicked it back to the state board of elections. And then the state board of elections voted yesterday. So we are left with, if you read the article in Maryland Matters, we are left with 2 weeks to really implement this. But everybody's pulling together to ensure that we're communicating from the county side, the county board of elections, community entities. We're all trying to make sure that people understand that there will be a site and getting that communication out. So we welcome any recommendations you have or how we can work closely with you to ensure that members of your councilman district get the information.
Well, I tell you, location is a piece of mail, especially our senior citizens. Everybody has a mailbox. You put the message out that there's an in-person voting location, then you're going to draw people to that location to vote. I'm just saying.
We understand. It's a catch-22. It's really a catch-22 for us, and especially the fact that we only have 2 weeks to implement it. But it's really felt like a ping pong match for the last 3 weeks. We've been working on this.
All right, thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Councilman Quirk.
Yeah, Ms. Brown, first of all, thank you for joining us. I know it's unusual times for sure. My question to you, Heather and I, we got our ballots a couple days ago. Do we know if all these ballots have been mailed out, and how are we handling it when you're getting, say, people have moved or maybe you get ballots returned? What type of process do we have to make sure that people that are eligible to vote, like say, for example, if they've moved in the interim, do we have a way of trying to find their new addresses, or how are we handling situations like that?
Yes, yeah, ballots were just mailed out last week, so they were a little late in getting them out, and that was put through the state. That didn't come from here. The state took care of the mailing out of them. Excuse me. So if the ballot comes back and there's a yellow sticker on it with a new address, we're going to resend the ballot to that new address. We're going to do our best to find what their new address is to get that ballot back out to them.
Ms. Brown, if you don't mind me jumping in, people who think they are entitled to a ballot and did not get one can always, I believe they can go online or they can call the Board of Elections and you will give them one that they can download right away. They would have to fill it out and then mail it back.
Correct. Yes. Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members that have questions or comments for Ms.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Is that Izzy?
Yes. In terms of this supplemental appropriation of $325,000, is this retrospective in terms of costs we didn't anticipate in the February 4th election, or is this to cover costs that we anticipate in the upcoming primary election?
No, this was just for the February 4th.
This was
prior, the February 4th, because we didn't know about that at the time the budget was put in place.
So the Martins West, when I was a little unclear, is when Ms. Rogers brought up Martins West as a polling place. Is that correct?
Correct. That's the plan.
So that's,
Use that for, that'll be the in-person site for 428, yes.
so the $325,000, is that to cover costs for the election that it happened on February 4th plus costs for Martin's West?
No,
No,
the
just to
Martin's
cover
West has
February
nothing.
4th.
That's all February 4th. Councilmember Patoka, our share of the cost with the state. There are some things we had to pay 100% and some things that the state shared with us. Those were the actual costs that we realized for the February election. We have yet to have any costs coming forward for April 28th, because like we said yesterday, we were advised that we have to have the in-person voting when state board voted yesterday.
While I was pleased with the outcome, that was an expensive election. If you look at what the state paid, what Baltimore County, the $325,000, the amount, I don't know what the amount that Howard County paid, and also Baltimore City.
They're not cheap.
Yeah, they're not.
Democracy is not cheap or free.
Nope.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
I have one, Councilwoman,
Yes, Councilman.
Madam Chair.
Hi there.
Hi. A special election is coming up in what, 2 weeks?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So are we
April
going
28th.
to incur additional expenses for the April 28th special election?
Yes, we are.
And
Yes.
so should the council expect another request for another supplemental regarding that particular election?
Yes, there is that possibility if we don't get it covered under the federal grant that Stacy talked about, the 400 million.
Okay.
Our hope is that based on what is in the federal COVID relief response fund number 3, that list all of the uses of the election assistance money, that we're within that thing that we need to do is within that the specifications in that fund, council member.
Okay. We anticipate that the cost for April 28th will exceed the 325 that the previous special election cost?
I'll defer to Katie, but I don't think so, because we're only hosting one site and we had to do the mailings. That 320 some thousand was for all of the polling sites in the 7th congressional district. So when you look at all of those sites, it shouldn't be. But we do need to alert you that we also are going to incur our costs for the primary, which is June 2nd. We have to host up to 3 locations in the county, in-person locations. So we have to do the same kind of process by June 2nd.
Right.
So we're mailing ballots for the June primary?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Okay. Like
ballots will be mailed. Ballots will be mailed, and there will be 4 locations for them to vote in person for June 2nd.
Thank you. Any other members? Thank you, Katie. Be safe.
I do have one additional question, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry.
One additional question for Katie. So what is the post? I think the postmark said the 28th. But if a person did not get a ballot and they did not make it to the in-person, do they still have time to request a ballot and mail it?
Before Election Day, they do, but after Election Day, no.
Okay, thank you.
All righty.
Okay, we all done? Thank you, Ms. Graham. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, we are going to move back to item 1. on page 6, 15-20, and we have Colonel David Folnauer with us. Colonel, are you with us?
Hear me now.
There you go.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So it's not a good sign when I'm in charge of technology over here too.
I hear you.
All right, so the first one's long, and I hope I don't lose you while we're doing this. The police department's requesting a supplemental budget appropriation of $6.5 million from unreserved, undesignated general fund surplus to various programs to cover various unanticipated budget shortfalls that are anticipated in this fiscal year of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
The police back pay settlement that was retroactive to fiscal year 2017, it was underfunded in fiscal year 2020 budget because the complete terms of the agreement had not been finalized as of the budget formation last year. This resulted in a built-in deficit of $800,000. In addition, the MOU reached post-budget submission, allowed for a $500 adjustment to the pay scale for 570 members in steps 1 through 7, and this took effect on July 1st of 2019. It resulted in an additional $300,000 deficit. The executive core members were also awarded the step after the budget formulation, and that cost $250,000. The rate of standby expenditures exceeded the fiscal 2020 budgeted amount. It wound up being a shortfall of $850,000. In addition, substitution pay was reduced in the fiscal 2020 budget, but the need for these benefits to awarding substituting supervisory personnel had not decreased. The projected shortfall of that was $200,000. Overtime and callback, because of trends, resulted in a $950,000 budget deficit. This is an increase in violent crime that we all saw last year, such as homicide and rape, and the increase in demands for investigative and support units. This has resulted in required overtime ensuing expenditures that weren't possible to avoid. Also, the department held an August lateral class, and we just released for field training a current lateral class. That cost is approximately $850,000. Hiring veteran officers who require a much shorter training period allows the department to place experienced officers on the street much more quickly. Lateral classes are strategically scheduled between the annual recruit classes, reducing the number of sworn vacancies at any given time. These classes were not factored into the turnover calculation. However, along with non-sworn hiring at a much higher rate than anticipated, it contributed to the deficit totals. And then lastly, the department's requesting funding in the amount of $2.3 million to address COVID-19 related needs. The department will be providing essential duty pay to most members for a total of $1.9 million in accordance with the county executive's guidance. In addition, cleaning supplies, wipes, masks, other personal protective equipment, and supply needs of $345,000 must be replenished on an ongoing basis. I'm sure there's a few questions on this one.
Members, any questions or comments for the Colonel?
Comment, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Bachoka.
Colonel, I just wanted to mention to you that this past Easter Sunday, I was at Sacred Heart Parish, and we were handing out boxes of food, and there must have been a line of 1,000 or more cars. And we were joined by Archbishop Laurie, and I just want to let you know that your officers did an outstanding job in managing a large number of people in a relatively crowded situation and managing the flow of traffic and the flow of people. So I just wanted to pass that along. If you could give Captain Buckingham a pat on the back on my behalf, I'd appreciate it, and let the chief know as well that your guys did a great job over at Sacred Heart in Glendon.
Thank you,
Absolutely,
Councilman.
Yep, I will pass that on both the captain and the chief. And, you know, these are trying times, and you know, this is something that we're certainly not used to from the police department side. And I couldn't be more proud of the men and women and how they're responding to everything that's going on.
Thank you. Well done.
Any other members have comments or questions for the Colonel?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilman Jones.
Yes, I want to thank Colonel Falderauer for coming in, and certainly we appreciate all the efforts of the men and women of the police department at this trying time. But I was just curious myself, given the additional funds that we're paying, I understand all of those things. Are there any additional operational positions being funded? Because talking to my colleagues across I guess the public safety realm, I said, hey, you guys busy? And they said, man, our calls are down like 75% because everybody's staying at home and a lot of things are just not happening in terms of what we normally deal with from the day-to-day calls. So I'm just curious, does this money include any additional operational positions? And if so, why?
This money does not. You know, some of this request originally, you knew was coming before the COVID-19 hit. This essential duty pay was something the county executive had mentioned. So it's $200 a pay for over 5 pays is the way I understand it. I'm excluded from that. So this is in reference to the boots on the ground, the troops that are out there. We are also seeing a reduction in calls for service. And what we've done, though, is we've created teams that we've trained up so that they can appropriately respond to persons under investigation, to make sure that certain people are going out and actually having contact with, whether you say they're suspected for COVID or we're just not sure. That way we're keeping our patrol folks back. Now, in emergency situations, they still have to go hands-on right away. And we're dealing with that. So the reduction of calls is great. So this is also giving us a chance to focus on the more nuisance crimes that I know drive all 7 of you crazy, the theft from autos and the things such as that. And we're also preparing and protecting ourselves with all the businesses being closed, is making sure we don't have a rise in commercial burglary.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Rogers.
just wanted to also articulate that we are pursuing COVID relief funds for the essential pay that we implemented for our first responders, which includes not only the public safety side, but social workers and the public health nurses and teams that are doing testing and trace investigations. We're also providing some limited relief to public works employees, rec and parks employees who are handing out food each week, as well as our drivers for County Ride who are transporting citizens to critical doctor's appointments, dialysis, et cetera. But we fully intend to pursue reimbursement, because if it were not for the COVID pandemic, we would not be incurring those costs.
I agree.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilman Catch.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the additional salary costs related to 2 lateral classes. And what I'm wondering is, have we increased the number of police in Baltimore County? Last time I heard, we only had 1 vacancy. Can you just give me an idea of what is going on there?
Sure, Councilman. Just through attrition, we're already back to about 27 vacancies. And based on the way the contract is structured, by the end of this year, we're expecting quite a big exit. I think you've all heard of a 27 pay hit, for a last year. Well, the end of this year, that winds up it winds up being a 27 pay time. It's very, I wouldn't say very lucrative, but it's lucrative for someone who's looking to retire to go. And there's already a talk that our vacancies are going to increase. So right now, again, we just put about 10 lateral officers out on the road. They're doing field training right now. Our recruit class that's in, there's 42 officers that are training for Baltimore County. And we've had to, unfortunately, we're right at a critical time where they are going to learn their hands-on training, their defensive tactics, their handcuffings and things like that. And we just can't have them do that right now. So we've gone to a different distance learning format, and we're going to have to postpone this hands-on just so we can get over this bubble. And then we'll get back with them. So then they'll be out this summer. But that still does not include the 27 vacancies of those 42. So, our December class, we're hoping, we have another class we're hoping to put in June. That may get pushed back a little bit. So we're just constantly, we're chasing ourselves. We did do a great job. We did get down at one point. There was literally one vacancy. And everybody's struggling with recruitment and retention. So I couldn't have been more proud of my folks that were able to get down. But again, just through a normal attrition, this happens.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Are there any other members that have a question or a comment for the Colonel before we move on to the contract? Very well then. We're going to go down to.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Rogers.
Chief Rund is on with us now.
Okay, she will be next. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you. Next, we will go to page 33, the contract with Paradise Animal Hospital. Colonel, it's all yours.
All right, this will be a little quicker. Paradise Animal Hospital will provide professional veterinarian services for animals assigned to the canine unit. Additional services would include necessary help and expertise in screening prospective dogs for the unit, i.e. hip x-rays, evaluations of existing dogs, and consultation on canine-related issues. Contract was awarded through competitive procurement process based on the lowest bid. It's $26,000 a year with 4 optional 1-year renewals.
Colonel, where is Paradise Veterinarians located?
They're on Frederick Road over in Catonsville.
Thank you. Any members have comments or a question for the Colonel on this contract? Okay, thank you, Colonel. Stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go back to 2. And that is item number 2 on page 14. And that's Bill 17-20. And we have Chief Joanne Rund with us.
Chair and council members, I apologize for my technical difficulties. Let me see if I can get my camera working for you. How's that? There we go.
Great, good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Thank you so much for bearing with us during this challenging time. We are requesting from the council an supplemental appropriation of unassigned general fund balance of $2.2 million. We did not see the savings in the anticipated salaries that we thought we were because we did not have the retirements that we anticipated that we would throughout the year. Everyone has kind of hung in there with us longer than we anticipated they would. So that has resulted in a $2.2 million deficit.
Any comments, questions from the members? Chief?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Jones.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to tell Chief Rung we certainly appreciate the efforts of the brave men and women of the fire department as they go about their daily duties protecting us and the community. And let me just make a comment that Chief Rung should certainly know that historically you have higher turnover rate in the police department than you do the fire department.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Jones.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Quirk.
Yeah, just briefly, Chief Rund, not on this topic, but later, if we could just catch up on the Catonsville Fire Station.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Izzy. So just to understand correctly, when you prepared the budget, or when the budget was prepared in last fiscal year, there was a certain turnover number that was slotted into your budget request,
Yes, sir.
the approved budget, and that turnover didn't occur. Does that impact your budget request this year and trying to find sweet spot of turnover, what that turnover number ought to be?
Yes, sir. We have
Greater, because those folks that were anticipating retirement in the current fiscal year may choose to retire in next fiscal year.
Unfortunately, we do not know that. However, we have looked at a better way to tweak that number to make it more efficient and effective.
Not for today, but perhaps at some point, Madam Chair, if you agree, we could have Mr. Blades and the budget office to talk about defining turnover is, it's an unknown, but it's a budget technique that's often used. I'm not sure it's a great mechanism because it puts us in a position like we are today, where we've had a certain anticipated turnover number, we didn't make it, and now we're trying to find those dollars. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that it'd be nice to have that dialogue with Mr. Blades and his colleagues on how we define and anticipate turnover and how we use it as a budgeting mechanism.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Rogers.
May I respond, Councilmember Patoka? Councilmember Patoka, we definitely hear you. We're on the same page with you. This is something that we focused on during this budget development process. As I mentioned when we did the briefings, we've talked with the departments about turnover and how do we come to realistic turnover, and that it should not be used in the manner of trying to meet a mark. The other piece that will help us to manage this better is because we now do quarterly reviews with budget reviews with the department heads and their fiscal staff so that we can closely monitor. This year is a transition year because we just started this new budget process, but we anticipate that as we go forward, that this will level out some. Each of the department heads, we had the same discussion with everyone about realistically looking at turnover.
Got it. Much more difficult for the smaller departments.
Absolutely.
To reach a turnover number than it is for the larger departments. That's been my experience and probably holds true today. But I'm glad to see that there's more than just an annual monitoring of turnover and how we apply that to the budget. Thank you.
We shifted to the quarterly reviews back in the fall.
Madam Chair, can I add to that?
Yes, is that Mr. Blades? Sure.
Thank you. I would love to have that conversation as far as the turnover and assumptions and calculations. But I would like Lawrence Melkinson's office, the auditor's office, to be included in that dialogue.
Sure. Thank you, Ed, Mr. Blades.
Make that happen, Mr. Blades.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilman Jones.
just to be clear, when we talk about these numbers and the turnover numbers, we're talking about a savings between people leaving and us having an academy. We're not talking about a reduction in the authorized strength of the fire department, are we?
There's no reduction in the authorized strength. There's two components of turnover. It is that gap where the position is vacant, but it's also the difference between someone who leaves at a maximum salary and you have someone coming in at a minimum salary. It's also that gap. So it's vacancy length that's open and then a difference between the salaries, but no change in authorized strength.
Thank you.
It's a multi-dimensional calculation.
When you get to police fire, it gets even a little more interesting because you're dealing with class sizes. So you're hiring in groups. So there's these windows of vacancies.
I see. Thank you.
Any other members? Thank you. Chief Run, is that it for 1720? Finished?
We actually are going to have another 1.1 million that will need to be appropriated for the additional pay, the supplemental pay for the emergency response during COVID responses. And we're hoping to add that in as a supplemental on top of the original bill.
Thank you for adding that. Any other questions or comments for the chief?
And Madam Chair, that amount also is a part of what we will be pursuing with the Federal Relief Fund.
Oh, good. Okay, great. All righty. Chief Run, thank you for joining us today and stay safe.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Members, we're going to go on to item 5 on page 22, Bill 26-20. And we have Director Laura Raleigh with us.
Hello. Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon.
Members of the council. The administration is requesting a supplemental appropriation of Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act funds totaling $591,531 to provide home delivered meals and congregate meals. This will help us during the pandemic because we are focused on feeding our older adults. Very complicated to hear. Okay.
Ms. Raleigh, how are you getting the names for the seniors that you're delivering these meals to?
Currently, the Maryland Access Point is the monitoring the food line that Baltimore County has established. So all of the requests for food are coming from the agency. We then sort through who is eligible to receive home delivered meals, as well as participate in our programs.
So this money, when is this allocated until? Is this looking out to May or June or beyond that?
Yeah, we actually have until the end of next fiscal year to spend the additional funds.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. Are there any questions or comments for the director by the members?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Jones.
Of course, I want to thank Ms. Raleigh and all of her staff for everything they're doing in terms of taking care of our seniors at this very vulnerable time. I am just curious if she knows whether or not Meals on Wheels are still delivering food. I'm just curious.
Yes, we actually are supplementing a large number of those meals in Baltimore County. We added 82 clients the 1st of April, and they told us that they can handle any more that we want to give them. So they are still accepting referrals.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Receiving these additional clients because folks, the seniors are calling in and saying, look, I just can't get out of the house and I have no one to grocery shop for me. So can I be added to the list?
In some cases, yes. So because we're not performing meals in our senior centers, we are seeing an increased demand for individuals that normally would have eaten at our senior center.
Sure, that makes sense. Thank you. Any other members? Thank you, Ms. Raleigh. Stay safe.
Thanks.
Next item is item 6 on page 41. And we have Deborah Schindler with us today. Deborah, are you there?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Firstly, I do believe the first thing on the agenda is that is it the Towson Square garage?
It's the parking space agreement. Yes, with the Towson Square. Yes.
Got it. Thank you. The administration is requesting approval of a parking and space agreement with the Baltimore County Revenue Authority to lease approximately 300 parking spaces in the Towson Square garage. The Baltimore County Detention Center personnel will be using the parking spots while repairs are made to the detention center garage. The contract commences on or about May 2nd on 2020 and continues through July 31st of 2020. If the repairs are not completed by July 31st, then the county may extend the terms on a month-to-month basis. And we do have to be honest that we may actually be in further delay due to COVID-19 pandemic. We're not able to get this out to bid yet. But as soon as we do, if it looks like it's going to start more like June, the county will pay the Revenue Authority $55 per month per parking spot, with the estimated compensation totaling $45,500 for the entire approximate 3 months of the contract term. The MB-2 on this agenda is a resolution to accept the donation also of the 3 school buses for Baltimore County Public Schools to transport detention center personnel to and from the Towson Square Garage. So the total job, just so everyone understands, is actually a 10-month completion time. And we have to move some of the personnel who actually park in the garage for only 3 months, because we're going to do the underground garage first and then work our way up so that we can give them back the garage.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Marks.
Thank you. Ms. Schindel, thank you for briefing me the other week on this. I very much appreciate you laying out the timetable. Also, the route for shuttling the employees, I think takes them through a very logical path through Towson. And along the timing too. I mean, you're doing this in the summer, which activity will probably be a lot less than in the fall, hopefully. But thank you very much for briefing me. I do appreciate that.
You're welcome, sir, anytime.
Any other questions or comments on the parking agreement? Okay, can we go to the second item?
Absolutely.
Page 48 for the members, and this is Resolution 40-20.
Resolution 40-20 authorizes the county to accept the donation of 3 decommissioned school buses valued at approximately $5,000 each, or $15,000, from the Baltimore County Public School. The bus will be used to transport the county detention personnel to and from the Towson Square at the garage. And while repairs are made to the garage, the FM-5 on this agenda is a park and space agreement with the Baltimore County Revenue Authority to lease approximately the 300 spaces at its Towson Square garage. By accepting these vehicles, property management estimates that the county will incur the cost of approximately $27,000, which is $9,000 per bus, for repairs, the painting, and the removal of school equipment, plus the possible $2,625 for supplies, and maintenance being approximately $250 per bus, or $750 for the approximate 3-month lease period. Property management advised that when repairs to the detention center garage are complete, the Department of Public Works will evaluate the condition of the bus to determine if they are needed somewhere else in the county before we remove them from the fleet completely. Property management advises that the repairs to the detention center garage are anticipated to begin in May 2020, which when this was written was probably true, and completed in July of 2020. And however, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this timeline is flexible.
Anyone have any comments or questions? I think we all love donations. Anyone? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe. Okay, now we're going to go to item number 7 on page 29. It's a contract, and I believe we have Tom Kiefer from the Department of Public Works. Tom, are you with us? You with us, Tom? Okay.
You see me now?
I can't see you, but we hear you. Can anybody see it? There you are. We see you.
Okay. Good. All righty, so the administration is requesting approval of a contract with Cintas Corporation Number 2 to provide rental and laundering services for uniforms and shop towels for employees of the county's vehicle operation and maintenance and equipment maintenance repair shops. The contract commenced on December 1st, 2019 and continues through May 30th, 2020, and may not exceed $20,000 unless approved by council. If approved, the contract will continue through November 30th, 2020, and will renew automatically for 4 additional one-year periods with the option to further extend the initial term or any renewal term an additional 120 days. Although the contract does not specify a maximum compensation for the initial year, the overall compensation may not exceed $335,000 for the entire 5-year or month term, including renewal and extension periods. So these are the uniforms for approximately 105 workers that work on maintaining the fleet, the fire fleet and our vehicles, vehicle operations system, police cars, etc. So this is so they can stay clothed. That's it.
Okay, any questions or comments from the members? I think Councilman Jones was just chuckling at making sure they're staying clothed, right?
Yes, I was curious. I was gonna ask the question, Madam Chair. Thank you for recognizing my smile. I was curious. Number one, is this a new contract?
No, Cintas Corporation. Well, yes, excuse me. This is a new contract. This is not the first time we've had a contract with Cintas. This was bid through the procurement process, and they were again the low bidder.
Okay, thank you. Because I guess wanted to make sure they had on close today when they would be working. Thank you very much.
We all need that humor right now. We appreciate it.
Councilmember Jones, we seek to ensure that all of our employees are appropriately clothed the best we can.
At this time.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Kiefer?
I think I slipped through the cracks, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kiefer. Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we're going to go to item number 8 on page 37. And I believe we have Director Will Anderson here to speak to us about a contract.
Hi, Madam Chair, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Thank you.
See, but we hear you.
Can't see me?
No. Anybody see Will?
I see Will.
Oh, you do? Okay, I just can't see him. Go ahead, Will.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the council. This contract, Fiscal Matter 4, is for a feasibility study in our tourism program. So we're requesting the approval of this contract with Johnson Consulting to conduct a feasibility study for our major tourism program, which will include a financial analysis to talk about viable capital projects. This contract is not to exceed $70,000. We have had to talk with the contractor about changes in timeline because of the COVID-19. And we've talked to the auditors about that. So you'll see changing some of our timing, but not changing any of our fiscal matters in there. So there's 2 parts to this program. You'll recall that we used Johnson in an initial return on investment tourism study. Several of the recommendations of that study have been enacted under County Executive Olszewski, and they include a focus on marinas. We've started a new marinas loan program. Arts and entertainment districts. We've initiated our first arts and entertainment district in Catonsville. Increasing our funding to tourism as directed by the council. The county executive has done that. Hiring a new senior manager of our tourism and cultural arts program. We've done that with Daniel Singh. Many of you have met Daniel. And initiating arts programs with some of our major tourism anchors like Guinness, and we're underway there. One of the big things that was in the study was to look at massive opportunities in facilities. things that could be events, sporting arenas that tie into that first study. So this piece of work has two elements to it. You can think of it, one as a wide net, the phase we're calling 2A, the feasibility study, and that's to meet with our tourism industry folks and look at what the market would support and analyze the trends nationally to show what could the return be for the county. Johnson will bring back a series of options for the county to look at based on what they're discovering with our local tourism folks. And then the county can select a deep dive with a true economic and fiscal impact study to bring back to the county a viable project and what it would take to get it off the ground. So we broke the study into two parts so that we could see that we're going wide net and then we're going into a deep dive in a more detailed analysis.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you for those last comments, because I was going to ask a question about the difference between this study and the last study. So thank you for answering that in advance. I think that we are all very happy to hear about tourism being moved forward in Baltimore County. And I very much hope that C.H. Johnson Consulting remembers that we have 200 miles of waterfront in eastern Baltimore County. I think Councilman Crandall will agree with me on this, and that they realize the benefit to that waterfront and how they could promote it for all of not just Baltimore County, but the state of Maryland. So I'm very anxious to see that in their study.
If I could add to that, I think your comment there, Madam Chair, is really pertinent on the other side of COVID. One of the things that's going to happen in tourism, and everyone's talking about it, is what does drivable tourism look like? And not just your waterfront and Councilman Crandall's waterfront, but several of the hidden gems in our tourism space in the county are drivable to tens of millions of people. And if that's the trend toward what can I do on day trips, weekend trips, week-long trips with my family that I don't have to get into a plane, and then maybe, people are going to react differently post-COVID. It's a great opportunity, and we're actually bringing that into this study to look at what does drive time tourism look like that we could unlock that's already here. So water is a big part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do any of the members have any comments or questions for Mr. Anderson?
Madam Chair, this is Izzy. I do. Mr. Anderson, thank you. What is you said that we're going to delay this study, is that correct?
Well, we're not going to delay the study. We're going to probably order of work. So there was really two elements. Johnson was already scheduling to meet with all of our tourism community here. And we put the brakes on that because of COVID. The second part of it was going to be market research, more bench research. We've asked Johnson to conduct that work now, and move the visits to our tourism folks, the physical visits, to later in the summer when we have a shot at doing it. So we're not changing the deliverable or the amount of money that we're spending. We're just asking them to flip the order of the work.
Be reasonable to just pause this until the dust settles in terms of the nature of tourism post-COVID?
I think that's a wise comment. We're going slow in what would we implement here, because we know tourism, restaurants, destinations took the first big hit in COVID. We saw that with unemployment. We saw that with business closures, and we know our hotels are looking at incredibly difficult revenue for the rest of 2020. So we know we're going to be in a recovery mode for that, for tourism. But because we have a lot of underutilized assets, looking at how we promote them now is a smart approach. In fact, the state Department of Commerce has asked every local jurisdiction to be sort of day one ready to invite people to Maryland because of our drive time advantage. So I hear you. We're in the middle of a very difficult time, but planning for the other side of it is where we're at now.
Got it. So also, I would ask you to consider looking at kind of micro tourism. So, for example, the Hilton in Pikesville just doubled the size of its ballroom, and also has a kosher kitchen now. And the intent is to drive. Well, actually, that's not a good word. To get this is pre-COVID. Folks from New Jersey, and New York, where it's much more expensive to have a wedding reception in a large enough hall that can provide a kosher setting for the Orthodox Jewish community. There's the hope that people would come from New York, New Jersey to Baltimore right at 695 and Reisterstown Road, where there's a hotel and people will spend money here in Baltimore County from other regions. And I hope that the consultant recognizes, waterfront, certainly absolutely natural tourism draw, but then there's this micro tourism in each of our districts that might benefit from the lens of a consultant who does this, does this for a living.
That's a great example. I mean, I think we're seeing that fold into drive time tourism. That's such a unique tourism attraction there. And I know the owner has had success already starting to, without a massive promotion. There's a lot of capacity there. So I made a note of it to include it in with our contract here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, while I have your attention here, we're going to switch lanes for a minute, and I'd like to talk to you briefly about the amount of folks that are reaching out to economic development in Baltimore County to talk about their small businesses and how you are assisting and what is the major thing that you're hearing from people in small business. Of course, that they're closed, but what is how has the response been from small businesses in Eastern Baltimore County, and where are most of those requests coming from?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. If you look back, I think we're in kind of week 5 of COVID in terms of response on the economic side. We had a public health response in the first 2 weeks of March, but since then we've had an economic response, and it's been a flood of 2 things. Small businesses coming to us looking for where are the resources, and displaced workers looking to us on where do I get assistance. And at this scale, nationally, that you've seen a number of state programs that were stood up. We were helping small businesses get involved in the Maryland Commerce Program. Some of them were grants, some of them were loans. They're actually still in process. They've closed them to new applicants, but they're still in process. So we're getting those folks from calls, emails, webs, referrals coming through the county executive's office, through your office. Councilwoman and other council people are fielding that. The small businesses are in a time crunch. They're in a time crunch for programs that have not reached their door. They've been announced at the state and federal level, but they've not reached their door, including the private banks, which have rolled out the big $350 billion Paycheck Protection Program. That program is really only about 5 days old. Billions of dollars are starting to roll out, but it's several hundred billions that need to hit the street. We're starting to see it our banks here. So they're asking for help from the SBA side, and individuals are asking for help with unemployment. That's been the huge piece.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that because although, it's a state program, we've had I have, and I think that probably most of the other council members will say that we're hearing from constituents saying the phones are just ringing and ringing, or they go onto the info and no one's calling them back. If you had everyone listening to you today, what would you advise them to do?
Yeah, I mean, I feel for our partners at the state. They are underwater.
Sure.
Unemployment is a state-run program that they do not allow the locals to work on. They don't allow us to access the program and advocate for people. So calling the county, I understand why people do that, or call the city or other counties. They're frustrated. But the counties and the city cannot assist in that program. As a matter of fact, we're using some of our staff to help the state process these claims because it's tens of thousands. So if you look at what's happened on Labor's website, they are attempting to do two things: scale up in number of people, which they desperately need people to go through, and they're trying to extend to independent and part-time workers or gig economy workers, folks who do Uber and any of the side contracting, so that you can get into unemployment. Most people are going to have luck online. Most people are not going to have luck calling the state. So we send people back, and I think maybe I sent this on to your team, to the site that the state keeps current on unemployment. They are changing it daily, and they are trying to get to everyone. I know some people have had claims denied, but unfortunately, that's where the state is right now, and it's not something that the local workforce teams can help. We're actually trying to help lighten their load of what their caseload is. We have probably 600 cases right now we just took today from the state so that the state could process new claims.
I appreciate
That's not a great answer. Yeah.
I appreciate that the bodies you put on loan for that. It's just such a need right now. There are just people that are just so desperate right now and really just don't have any income coming in whatsoever. So thank you. Do any of the members have any other questions or comments for Mr. Anderson?
I do, Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Crandall.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Anderson. This is kind of a follow-on to the chairwoman's question. I'm sure you're aware that Congress is working on phase 4 of the stimulus package, which is supposed to provide relief for small businesses. As you're aware, these programs are few and far between, and some are, as you mentioned, PPP is in its infancy. What kind of hope do you hold that Congress is going to, and what they eventually pass in phase 4 is going to provide relief to our small business community?
I think the two things that come to mind are scale and speed. Both of those were not in the CARES Act, and I think they acknowledged it, that even though it was $2.2 trillion, it was not to the scale of what our country needs at a local level. And speed in using the private banks was a great idea, but there's a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of friction there that people still don't have the money. So I'm hopeful that they're going to work on both of those things. And one positive sign is we get a lot of folks calling us, and I'll tell you, 3 weeks ago, we got a lot of people in airline industries and hotel industries and some of the bigger corporations calling their local, state, and federal government to lobby to be in the CARES Act. Now what I hear is small business. I hear a lot of people lobbying so that our electeds at the federal level know how desperate our small business communities are, that this follow-on has to fix their problem. That's where the problem lies, is on our main streets. So I'm optimistic in that is the communication I hear now, rather than simply the larger industries that needed to be heard on their advocacy level. So speed and scale is what we need. And of course, we need that yesterday. And this is something that the county executive has us looking at locally about what can Baltimore County be doing in the void of really the federal response getting here in time.
Sure. And I share that concern. I think we all do. We've talked with the Economic Advisory Commission. As you're aware, you were on that conference. That small businesses are really taking it on the chin here. So if you own a small family-owned tavern or a nail salon, a hair salon, a tanning salon, as Councilwoman Bevins and I discussed, you're really in a crunch here. And there's, again, relatively little for the small guy that we've seen so far. So I'm hopeful, as you are, and I hope I can share your optimism as news comes out on what Congress eventually passes in this next phase. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Anderson?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Jones.
I'll just thank and appreciate Mr. Anderson's comments and keeping us up to speed. I wanted to add two things, and he can correct me if I'm wrong. One, I remember reading that although the unemployment folks are really, really backed up, one of the things I read was they wanted to assure people that whenever they did get through and whenever they were processed, that it would be retroactive, that they will receive the monies even if they don't get in within a certain period of time. Is that right, Mr. Anderson, as you understand it?
That is correct. Now, that does mean they have to have been approved. Their claim had to have been approved, but it'll go back all the way to the time of impact, whatever the date that they actually get the approval. That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to put that out there because I think that's an important point.
Yes, sir.
The other thing I had a question for you, and I know that I understand that you're not in charge of the of this relief package, but I remember I wanted to know if anyone else had these experiences. When we were on a conference call with Senator Cardin and Senator Van Hollen, one of the things that they brought up was that the banks, number one, should not require or someone to have a previous relationship with them for them to process the claim. We're talking about the private banks. And secondly, I've been hearing from some constituents that some of the banks have said they're not processing anymore. Has anyone else heard that?
I think part of what you're seeing in the next bill is to address both sides of that friction. One is, what friction did the original bill from Congress put on the system to move the money? And can we lighten that? You've seen that with Wells Fargo. They had a limit. They reached their limit and they were allowed to go beyond that limit. There was an adjustment made. So we've seen that they can make correction on that. And then the second thing is friction that the private lenders themselves are putting on there about, hey, you don't have an account with me, or you didn't have an account with me prior to X date. Asking the lenders to ease those restrictions so that transactions can happen, so friction can get removed. I think you're going to see both things. I know we need both things. We need easier regulation from Congress, but we also need we don't need add-on friction coming from our banks to implement the program.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. I was a little confused about something you said. If I had a small business or a business and I closed the doors March the 1st, when I go to get assistance, was it through UI?
UI is for individuals.
For individuals.
Not for business owners.
You had mentioned something about the date that an application is approved.
Breaking up.
I don't think I can hear you, sir. I'm sorry.
No, I said you had talked about the date that an application is approved. And okay, if you close down, let's say March 1st, if you make your application, let's say 2 weeks later, then are those 2 weeks lost?
I'm not sure which specific program we're talking about, because there's a couple.
I'm not, but no, you had mentioned about dates.
We were talking, Councilman Jones and I were talking about unemployment insurance,
right?
Which is where we need all the displaced workers to file a claim,
Yes.
right? It's insurance for a rainy day, and it's rained.
That's correct.
What the state has said is we're delayed in processing those claims.
Right.
Whenever we get to that claim and approve you, your benefits will go all the way back to the day you are entitled. Not to the day, not to the day you are entitled, not to the day that we approved you, but back to,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Because I had heard something about approved, but that's not the case.
It's
So
back-
the actual date. Okay, good.
That's how we understand it.
Will, may I also add a point? Council member, they asked a question, when was your last date of work? One of the questions that is a part of the application process, and the worker puts in the date of their last day of employment.
Okay.
That is the question that's asked, because see, this delay where people haven't been able to get in and they're concerned that they were going to be penalized because you're supposed to apply within a certain time period is what caused, this concern. But if you put in the last day, say your last day of work was March the 10th, but you couldn't get in the system until March, say the 23rd, you go back and you put the date of your last date of work as March the 10th. You tell them when it was your last day. You're not being penalized because you couldn't get in.
So it has nothing to do when your application is approved that date. It's the date that you first were out of work from that point on.
You indicate when you were out of work, but then they confirm that. The approval part, as Mr. Anderson talked about, they have to go back and look to ensure that you were indeed employed and had your time frame. And that's what the approval part is. There's no penalty because you couldn't get in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Chair, if I could,
Yes.
I'd like to follow up the meeting. I'd like to see frequently asked questions on unemployment insurance that you all can be sharing with your constituents, because the state is putting language to this. It is confusing to people. People are fearful. People are in a bit of a panic about, can I sustain until the money comes? So we want to send out this frequently asked question. The other good news is that the federal government is starting to make those direct payments that we've heard about, unrelated to unemployment. So we're seeing hopefully that the money will start flowing, but I'll send you the frequently asked questions about UI, and I'll encourage you to share it with your constituents.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Stay safe.
You as well.
Okay, members, we're going to move to item number 9, which is on page 17, and that's Bill 18-20. And I believe we have Director Michael Malinoff with us.
Hello, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the council. I'm Michael Malinoff, Director of PAI. The proposed bill appropriates $70,689 of prior year liquor license fund balance to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners Liquor License Fund Program, increasing the FY 2020 program budget from $660,000 to $730,958. The funds are needed to cover higher than anticipated salary costs. The department advised that the program's FY 2020 salary budget for the chief administrator position was lowered to $62,552, with the chief administrator serving as the acting PAI director. However, when the current PAI director was appointed prior to the end of FY 2020, the acting director resumed the chief administrator position at the FY 2020 salary budgeted for the PAI director position, $154,500. As a result, the budgeted salary for the chief administrator position is insufficient to cover the position's current compensation.
Could you, Michael, could you give me the beginning and ending budget on that again? I just want to make sure I understood it right.
The proposed bill appropriates $70,689 of prior year liquor license fund balance to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners Liquor License Fund Program, increasing the FY 2020 program budget from $660,269 to $730,958.
Thank you. I misunderstood you. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. And Madam Chair, members of council, that's it in sum. The liquor administrator runs the board, also is over top of our rental program, and then does a number of special projects for the department as needed.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Bill 18-20 by the members? Okay, that was an easy one. Thanks. Thank you. Have a good day. Stay safe. Okay, members, we're going to go to item 10 on page 10, and that's Bill 16-20. And we have the Director of Planning, Mr. Peter Gutwald, with us.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the council.
Good afternoon.
Bill 1620 is the department's request for as a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $200,000 to enhance promotional efforts for the census. As you're aware, the census will ultimately account for millions of dollars coming to Baltimore County in the areas of education, public safety, transportation, and assistance to low and moderate income families. The Baltimore County did receive a grant from the Maryland Department of Planning. However, that grant was focused on the hard to count area populations or areas that have been historically undercounted. The supplemental appropriation will assist us in reaching to a greater audience, but also the cost of dealing with the COVID situation and the pandemic issues. The money will be more geared towards what's called geofencing services that will deliver promotional messages to cell phones, computers, and tablets. And we're also exploring phone trees to reach residents that are sheltering in place, as well as social media outlets. I should mention also that the time period for the census has been extended. I think there was a time frame around end of July. It's now extended into the middle of August to get the counts into the Census Bureau. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the members?
There's a comment, Madam Chair. Izzy Patoka here. The census is so important and so easy. I filled out my form. It took me all of 5 minutes, and it means so much. I think it's, Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it $18,000 over the 10 years?
$1,800 a person? Yes, $18 a person per year over the 10 years.
Yeah, to cover the needs of the residents of the county. So if anybody's listening, so easy. Do it now. Don't wait. Pete, keep up the good work. How are the planners doing? Are they all okay?
They're all doing okay. I should mention that Savitra does an outstanding job in assisting us with this census out of the administration. So I give kudos to Savitra Peoples for helping us with all this. So.
I see my friend Bob Bembler is an attendee. So he and I both think about the planners a lot.
Well,
Mr. in there.
And Councilman Patoka, thank you for that PSA for the census. We appreciate that. And I also filled mine out.
Thank you. Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilman Marks.
Yes, I agree with everything that's been said. I, in fact, did a video with Delegate Carl Jackson promoting this. This is a bipartisan effort. And my question to you, Pete, is we expect to get the results for the council redistricting, I guess, next spring. Is that the plan, you think?
That is the current plan, but my understanding is that they're asking for an extension of time frame to get those counts back to the states and to the local jurisdictions. There's a request to extend that time period by a couple of months. So yes, next spring though, 2021. Yep.
And Madam Chair, may I be acknowledged?
Yes, Ms. Rogers.
The census has been extended, but I'm really excited. I want to thank Pete and his team, and of course, Savitra Peoples, who's my special assistant, is our boots on the ground person working with Pete's team, as well as a whole myriad of staff across all of the agencies. But what we want everyone to know is the time frame is indeed extended, and we now have data that we're looking at that shows response rates. So we will be coming back to you with some of the data once we've analyzed it to say where we have need for further outreach and get your assistance in your various jurisdictions so that we can outreach to areas where we're not getting the level of response. We can drill down to the actual census tract level and zip code level. We'll be doing more outreach, but we're ahead right now. For a while there, we were ahead of the state as we're ahead of the nation in terms of Baltimore County response. We're over 50%.
Ms. Rogers. Any questions or comments for Mr. Gutwald before he bids us farewell?
Madam Chair, I have a question. I thought more directed towards Mr. Blades, who abandoned his post, and now I see that he's back. So I just wanted Mr. Gutwald, thank you, and I do want to reiterate that the census is very important, especially in terms of planning and appropriations and budget planning, of course. We've gone through the 5 supplemental appropriation bills so far: 14, 15, 16, 17, and 19, 20. 1.5 million, 6.5 million, 325,000, 2.2 million, and 200,000 for health, police, elections, fire, and PAI. I do understand, and Ms. Rogers spoke on this, that some of that money may not have to be expended because we may get relief from the federal government through the programs that have been implemented through stimulus packages. But I want to draw your attention to the last 2 paragraphs. In each of these bills, the auditor has included a paragraph on how FY 2020 has moved beyond spending guidelines. And I just wanted to get Mr. Blades, get your thoughts on the consequences or ramifications to that. And what does going above that guideline and reaching into surplus, what does that do to us fiscally?
Well, if you last year when the budget was adopted, we exceeded spending affordability by roughly 16 million, and clearly we're okay. So at this point, with the county executive submission today, we were $8 million below spending affordability. If you look at Exhibit H in the budget message that was submitted today, you'll see that we are acknowledging the supplemental appropriation, or assuming it's going to be coming out of the fund balance. And you'll see we'll be left with a fund balance. I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head, but I think it's close to 11.3% at the end of FY20. And we will, with the FY21, 10.3% with the fund balance. And we were at one point, we're up to around 11% fund balance for FY20 projected, but with the revenue write-downs, we're down closer to ending the year at around, I think it's 11.3.
Okay, so if I understand you, the supplementals that we're voting on Monday, they've been factored into 21.
Yes, they have.
Okay.
Thank you, Blades.
And I was looking for my laptop's.
That's your story. You're sticking to it. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Gutwald. I think we're through.
Thank you.
Next, we have item 11 on page 1, and that is Bill 13-20, and we have Deputy Director Brady Locker.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman Bevins.
Good afternoon.
To the council. My name is Brady Locker. I'm the Deputy Director of Environmental Protection and Sustainability. The administration is requesting supplemental appropriation for external private funds from Chimera Water Solutions totaling $126,241 to the Stormwater Restoration and Retrofit Bulk Capital Project. Pursuant to a December 23rd, 2019 Memorandum of Understanding between the county and Chimera, these funds will be used towards the county's Water's Edge Park Shoreline Restoration Project, otherwise known as Water's Edge 2, located off of Bullneck Road in Dundalk. The collaboration will help satisfy Chimera's pollution reduction requirement while collaborating with the county's obligations under our own MS4 permit to improve water quality at Water's Edge Park.
Thank you. And I'm sure Councilman Crandall, you have comments or questions?
Sure. I just want to thank Mr. Locker and the agency for their attention to this. And I encourage and would hope that my colleagues would support this, what amounts to a donation in certain respects to Water's Edge Park and the Water's Edge community. It's a well-used park. There's festivals there, used for rec programs, obviously, and used for general recreation among the whole neighborhood and people that actually drive to the park, launch their boats there and such. So thank you for your work on it. And I hope we can get this passed on Monday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Next, we have item 12, and that's on page 44. And it's 2 contracts. And we have Amy Grassi from Real Estate Compliance. Amy, are you with us?
I am.
Okay, we hear you. Can we see you?
I don't know, can you?
Oh, can anybody see Amy?
I turned on my video.
Okay. Oh, there you are. Just want to see your smiling face.
You might have been better off not seeing me.
Yeah, we're all the same boat. Have you seen Councilman Crandall?
He disappeared. Where did he go? Councilman.
He hasn't shaved since COVID. Okay, you have 2 contracts, Ms. Grassi?
I do. Madam Chairman, members of the council, good afternoon. The 2 councils are kind of, 2 contracts are kind of best explained together. They're part of a state highways project to improve a stretch of Reisterstown Road in the area of its intersection with Painters Mill Road. They have been working on some stormwater management improvements and storm drain improvements there for some time, if anyone has driven through there recently. So what we have is a combination of donation from the county to the state for some of their improvements and purchase by the state of other areas. The distinction between the donation pieces and the purchase pieces is that the donation pieces were already kind of part of the bed of Reisterstown Road, which is a state highway. We had come into ownership of them related to the spur of Painters Mill Road that is on the east side of Reisterstown Road at that intersection, which is never going to be built out beyond the little bit of roadway that is there. But we had at some point acquired highway widening along the edge of Reisterstown Road for utilities there. So as part of their project, we're just going to donate those bits of the edge of Reisterstown Road that the county had owned. The pieces that the state is buying, they appraised several years ago for $14,300. They include temporary construction easements that they used for grading, erosion, and sediment control and other construction related activities. And there's also a small amount of fee simple title that they are acquiring in the areas that are part of that Painters Mill spur on the east side of Reisterstown Road.
I'm guessing this is Councilman Batoka's area, correct?
It is, yes. It's, but I don't really have any comment.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep, sure. Okay, Ms. Grassi, thank you. Stay safe.
You too.
Next item is 13, and that is on page 51. And that's resolution 41-20. And we have Jeff Peluso, the design chief, from the Department of Public Works. Are you there, Jeff?
I'm here. Can you see me?
Yep, I hear you, and now I see you. Very good.
All right,
Welcome.
great. Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Bevins, member of council. The administration is requesting approval of Resolution 4120, Cycle 37, amendments to the Water and Sewer Master Plan. As many of you know, an executive order was created in 1990 to establish a procedure to review petitions for the amendment to the Water and Sewer Master Plan. Also keep in mind that even with the approval of council, these issues are subject to MDE approval for it to be fully adopted. If you remember last year, we had the Butler Road issue where we had salt contamination on a property. I believe council approved it and it went to MDE and they disapproved it, so it didn't go through. In the case here, we received 4 petitions this year, 3 that we'll discuss this afternoon. There is an amendment to remove the 4th one from county council consideration. Public hearing was held on July 18th, and subsequently the planning board recommended recommendations were sent to the county executive on November 1st, and his recommendation for legislation was sent on November 26th. The first issue is St. Paul School number 19-01. It's inside the Metro District and outside the Erdel. They're requesting a change from W7S7 to W7S7MU, which is just multi-use. Really, this is just a housekeeping issue, and we actually get a benefit that by going to MU will require the facility to do additional testing and reporting of their wastewater produced. Moving on to the second petition is number 19-02, which is Bedonia Park Club and Child Center. It's approximately a 30-acre site. They're requesting change from S7 to W3S3. This property is inside the Metro District and notably outside of the Erdel. Public Works looked at it and they really review these sites to whether it's feasible to serve the sites from a public utility standpoint, and it can be. So EPS looked at it as well. They saw that there's a need to update their sewage system. They saw that they could build a new non-public system, but it would require revised treatment in public for public service. At a minimum, EPS said that they should be an MU, S7MU. The planning department recommended against the request, so they recommended that they keep their W7S7 designation. However, it is notable that the planning board recommended that the petition be granted. So the planning board recommended that we switch, or that it go from W7S7 to W3S3. The third item that we're going to talk about today.
Before you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, with the second issue, can you tell me what the cost will be to the swim club?
So I do not have a cost per se. When we look at these types of issues, we look at it from a feasibility standpoint.
Okay.
It would be required by the Bedonia Club to do either one. whether it's an update to their septic system or the extension of public utilities to the site. I would imagine that public utilities would be quite expensive. I know the sewer is not that close, and I believe we could get gravity though. But as I stated earlier, both the updated septic system and extension of public utilities are both feasible. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So I have a question about this one as well. So the planning staff recommended against this, but the planning board overruled that recommendation and supported this. Do you know the reason that the planning board chose not to adopt the planning staff recommendations?
I do not. I just get basically the recommendation from them. So what happens, Councilor Patoka, we give them a report on our findings, and that we being DPW, EPS, and planning, and we submit that at the public hearing, or we submit it and there's a public hearing on it with the planning board. The planning board votes on whether they want to accept those recommendations or not, based upon, I guess, on their own thoughts as well as the recommendations by the three agencies.
Understood. You know the date of that meeting? I'm going to take a look at the minutes before our legislative session, just to see the nature of.
It was the public hearing was July 18th, and the vote was September 5th.
Of 2019, September 5th of 2019. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm just going to take a look at the minutes to see what the nature of the deliberations were on the planning board.
No problem. Moving on.
Yes, sure.
Good.
What request was this? The one we're talking about right now?
Fredonia Swim Club.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
It's a northern Baltimore County. Third item is issue 1903, which is 6327 Ebenezer Road. It's another 30-acre site. It's inside the Metro District, and as well as it's inside the Erdl. The request is for W6 S6 to W3 S3. Public Works was in favor of at least the W3 designation, because we have we would like to get a main across the county to serve as a redundant supply of water to the peninsula. Right now we have a single supply, and if the main breaks, those northern peninsulas are out, and probably Kathy would be well aware of that situation. So we would love to get a main across there, and by getting a W3 designation, we could potentially do that, but we'd still have to get additional areas to be turned to W3. So it's a beginning to that end. As far as EPS was concerned, they have no objections, and planning asked that the designations remain as is until council makes a zoning decision. So they planning wanted to keep W6 S6. It is also notable that the entire property is within the county's coastal rural legacy area. Again, the planning board looked at all those recommendations, but recommended that the W6 S6 designation to be changed to W3 S3. This resolution will take effect from the date of its passage by County Council. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeff. I do want to speak on Lafarge Quarry, which was pulled, the amendment that the administration, I'm very thankful to the administration for doing that at this time. Just for the folks to bring them up to date. This is 400 acres. It's just very, very valuable to the county right now. And Lafarge is still receiving what they call dump. It was mined for years and now they're filling it. The Essex Middle River Civic Council, led by President Bob Bendler. This is a very, very important piece of property to the community and what happens with it later. So at this time, we asked, and they had some very valid points. They said, you know, why would you do this before the zoning process? And I thought that was valid. So, you know, this will be looked at another time, but I'm grateful that it's been taken off for now. And I just want to say thank you to the administration for doing so. And I hope that my colleagues will support the amendment of having it removed. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Jeff? Okay, Jeff, thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Yep.
You too.
Okay, next, we actually have a, no, that's council business. No, that's just resolutions. Oh, I'm sorry. We have resolution 4220. I'm sorry, Mr. Marks, you almost missed.
All right.
Page,
No problem.
Page 53, and that's 4220.
Thank you. This resolution amends the boundaries of the Perry Hall Commercial Revitalization District to accommodate a prospective new business near Bel Air Road and Silver Spring Road. It also will allow the design review panel to regulate what the new business will look like aesthetically. But I'm happy to support this and ask for your endorsement.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councilman Marks or comments? Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a special legislative, no, we do that. We have a special legislative meeting right now. Legislative day number 2 will now come to order, and we will pause for a brief moment of silent meditation. And I will call Councilman Marks to pledge allegiance.
I guess everyone stands, right?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, Republic,
which it stands one nation under God,
indivisible,
With liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This special legislative session is convened for the purpose of introducing emergency legislation at the request of the administration in response to COVID-19 pandemic. This legislation will be voted on at our next legislative session, April 20th. We will also vote shortly on a resolution to continue the local state of emergency declared by the county executive last month. Mr. Secretary, will you now read all bills for introduction?
Yes, Madam Chair. 31-20, current expense budget, community development block grant, COVID-19 fund emergency solutions grant, COVID-19 fund. These are both emergency, or this is an emergency measure. And Bill 32-20, current expense justice assistance grant, COVID response grant, also an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Does anybody have any comments? Okay, we will now consider any miscellaneous business. Mr. Secretary, first item.
Madam Chair, Resolution 47-20 is a resolution to approve the continuation of the state of emergency executive order number 2020-002.
And I believe we have County Attorney James Benjamin to testify today. Mr. Benjamin, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. On March 16th, 2020, the County Council approved Resolution 37-20 authorize the continuation of the state of emergency and catastrophic health emergency for additional 30 days, and that went to April 15th. It's likely that this state of emergency will continue beyond April 15th, 2020. And so the reason why we're here is to consider continuation of the resolution for the continuation of the state of emergency as required by 14-111 of the Public Safety Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland and 3-1-503D of the Baltimore County Code. And so we're requesting a continuation for 40 days from April 15th, 2020, or until the county executive declares the end of the state of emergency, whichever occurs first.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. Are there any questions or comments, Mr. Benjamin? Okay, is there a motion to approve resolution 47-20?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on resolution 47-20.
Ms. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk? Aye. Matoka?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution 47-20 is passed, and thank you, Mr. Benjamin, for all your work on this. I know that all the citizens of Baltimore County certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Secretary, are there any further business to come before the council?
There is no further business, Madam Chair.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. That was a great,
You all.
that was a great work session. And before you all go, I just would like to make a couple comments. I know that since COVID-19 has entered our lives on a government level, for all of us serving in local government, and including the county executive and his staff as well, I know that none of us have shut down. Our staff is still working. They're either in their district offices isolated, or they're working from their homes. We are still answering emails, letters, Facebook, anything on social media. We have been giving out a tremendous amount of information, whether it's our own information or coming from the county council. We've been, getting it out there to all the folks. It's a really scary time for people, I know. And whether we have been volunteering, giving food out, or directing people how to get food, or just about anything, I just want to say I'm very proud of this county council, this body. I'm very proud of all of our staff. Very proud of Tom Boswick, not missing a beat, staying in the council office, isolated by himself. Chris Hewitt Belcastro, the same thing. We really haven't skipped a beat. And it was really disheartening for me today to see remarks about the county council really not doing their job, and not answering calls and not answering emails. And I know that couldn't be further from the truth. So I just wanted to take this time to say, I know we're all still doing our jobs, and I'm very grateful. And I know we'll continue to do it. And we all have families that we're missing as well, and haven't seen. And Easter and I'm sure Passover was very different for many of us this year. And we got most of our hugs virally. And so I just want to say, let's keep up the good work. Let's keep taking care of the constituents across Baltimore County. I'm grateful, so very grateful for the strong leadership the County Executive Olszewski has shown us and shown the people of Baltimore County. And let's just keep moving forward until we beat this virus. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your kind comments and your leadership at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Appreciate you and the council.
Appreciate everyone. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And if I could add, Tom Boswick, I know you've been held up in Towson for 24/7. You can go home and, visit.
Yeah. Thanks, Julia.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.